Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user externalad8238. Am I the a-hole for not doing anything for my stepchildren anymore after being called names and filing for a divorce from my husband after he didn't back me up? I, 30 female, have been married to my 34 male husband for 6 years and he has twins, a boy and a girl, and they are now 16. When we started dating and got married, we went to family therapy and I made it clear that I was not trying to be their mother or replace their mother. Their mother hasn't been in their lives since they were about 8. Things have been great with us the past 6 years. They even started calling me mom when they were around 12 or 13 years old. Recently, their bio mother came back into their lives and they were really excited. Things were great for about 6 months, and then they started to call me by my real name. That hurt, but it's what they chose to do and I never questioned it. Recently, they've been getting very disrespectful. They don't follow the curfew rules. They're not cleaning up after themselves. They're talking back to me and telling me I'm not their real mom. They also told me that I'm the reason she left, which is not true. I didn't meet him until almost a year and a half after she left. That now that she's back, they don't need me anymore. Then, 3 weeks ago, there was a big blow-up where my stepson called me a bitch. I took his phone and told him to go to his room until his dad came back, but he instead ran out and went to his mom's. She came over and it was a big argument. She tried to hit me and I pushed her out of my house. My stepdaughter told me if I ever put my hands on her mom again, then she'd kick my ass. They both went to their mom's place. After that, I haven't been very active. I usually take them to sports and activities. I don't wake them up for school, so they've been late a few times. I tell them to have their mom wake them up and take them. We were supposed to go to Disney World for their spring break this week, but I canceled everything. I told them and my husband, and I guess they thought I was bluffing. We were supposed to leave Thursday night, and when I didn't start the usual vacation roundup, they were shocked. They started saying I was jealous that their mom came back into their lives, that I'm a horrible person and that I'm selfish. There was some name calling and my husband was silent. I asked him if he was going to step in and he said I was wrong for canceling. So I left and went to stay in a hotel. He has been blowing my phone up, asking me to come back, and yesterday he told me that their mother disappeared again and they've been calling me crying and apologizing. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't feel like I'm part of their family, and they can't just cry and I'll come back now that she has disappeared. I told my husband that I want a divorce and I'll be back over this week to get my things, but we have nothing to talk about. Yes, I know their mother was manipulating them. I never said otherwise. Yes, they are 16. That doesn't give them the right to treat me this way. Being 16 doesn't mean you get to be disrespectful and threaten me. I have always been in their corner. I know their feelings matter in this, but I am also a person with feelings. I am not only considering on moving forward with this divorce based on how the children acted, it is also the way that my husband did not back me up in this. If I can't count on him to help me navigate this tough situation that we were all going through, then why should I stay? That does not mean that I should be treated the way I was being treated. That is not normal 16-year-old behavior, to threaten me, call me vile names. I just need time for myself. And I don't want an apology just because their bio mother ran out on them again. I want an apology because they really mean it, and I don't believe anyone can be truly sorry 2 days after their mother vanished again. I would never just abandon them, but I do need time for myself because my feelings were disregarded. Yes, I am an adult, but I still have feelings that are hurt and need time for myself. I never asked or expected them to be perfect. I never expected them to be the most mature people, but I am allowed to be hurt and take time for myself during all of this. They have feelings and so do I. I love them very much. They are my children, but this is a very complicated situation. This is not because they called me a bitch. I've been called worse. I'm a woman. This is ultimately about my husband not backing me up during this situation. And yes, I am hurt that they called me that. I'm allowed to be. It hurts even worse coming from two people who I love dearly and would never hurt or want any harm to come to them. Well, OP, no, I don't think you're the a-hole for wanting out, particularly because your husband, your partner, did not have your back. That is the key for me. I understand the children being manipulated and of course what they said hurt. And their bio mom coming back into their lives and getting in their heads and manipulating them, like I said, does explain their behavior, but it doesn't justify it. They are 16-year-olds. They should have some temperance and some prudence in order to be able to behave accordingly. Your future ex, on the other hand, well, he just didn't behave as a partner. He did not have your back. Also, the fact that they're now crying for you to come back because their bio mom disappeared again on them, what if she hadn't disappeared? What if she would still be in the picture? Would they be calling you? I don't think so. So no, OP, I don't think you're the a-hole, and taking some time and space for yourself is the right thing to do. But what do you guys think about OP's situation? What is your judgment? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Vegetable Business 897 says, Bio mom dipped when stepmom did. Cause Bio knew all she had over those kids was the fun of torturing OP. Once OP was out and Bio might have to come through on anything or do some parenting, she legged it. Take it slow, OP. Enjoy your vacay and really ponder what you want in life. It may not be this fickle, spineless man and his kids, but he might have been struggling to know what to do and just failed. If you go back, it should be with family and marriage counseling, and I would stay out of the house and let him be a full-time parent to two teenagers for a bit, not the a-hole. Tabby Tuxedo 06 says, not the a-hole. You don't deserve to be treated this way and your husband is doing absolutely nothing. Had it just been the kids, it could have been a lesson eventually, but your husband chose not to support you. It would be easy to blame the bio mom for turning back up and twisting things, but honestly, it's both bio parents because your husband showed his kids that he won't stand up for you, essentially telling them it's okay to treat you that way. Critical Simple 3122 says, I'm sorry you're going through this. The bio mother may well have practiced parental alienation, but that's no excuse for your stepchildren and husband turning a blind eye to the bio mother trying to physically attack you. And there's no excuse for your husband allowing his children to act like this and failing to back you up. Not the a-hole. Additional information from OP's comments. I have done nothing to be treated and talked to that way by them. I know that their bio mother is at fault for this, but my feelings matter in this situation as well. This is not just puberty. I was never disrespectful like this when I was 16. I know their feelings matter, but mine do as well. And to put my feelings aside for them is odd. I had a stepdad and we didn't always get along, but I never did any of this to him. And no, I am not bailing on my marriage just because the children are acting the way they do. I was not going to stay in a household where I was being disrespected, verbally abused, and not being stood up for by my husband. Am I supposed to stay in this marriage where I don't have any support from him? They said they don't see me as their mother. I also said I'm not abandoning them, but I do need time to myself and for them to feel sorry and give me a real apology. I've never mistreated them in any way, and when their bio mom came back into the picture, I encouraged them to talk to her and have a relationship with her. I will not be apologizing for upsetting them when they were disrespecting me. No, they don't have to be adults, nor do they have to be perfect, but I don't think it's too much to ask not to be disrespected or be called a bitch and be threatened when I have done nothing but love them and be a mother to them. I know that it is their bio mom's fault and it's my husband's fault for not backing me, and I do want them to think about their actions. I do not want to speak to any of them for now. So the majority of the community was saying that OP was not the a-hole, but OP did get a lot of pushback from others saying that she was abandoning the kids and it wasn't the kids' fault and so on, and that's the additional context we got from OP's responses to those comments. So now let's move on to the update to see how the story ends. Hello, I've been getting a lot of messages asking for an update. I am now in a position to give one. So, I went back to the house 2 days ago and my husband and I had a long talk about what happened, how I didn't feel protected by him and how he knew how disrespectful the kids were being, but he didn't stop anything. That's when he said that he still loved his ex and that's why he pretty much did nothing. He didn't want to do anything for her to leave them again, them as in him and the twins. But he claims that it didn't change how he felt about me. I did not feel comfortable with that. I told him that I'd been there, not her, and asked him how he could still love her. It was very emotional and there was crying and yelling. I decided to move along with the divorce. I spoke to the twins and they cried and said that it was their fault. They asked me to forgive them and their dad and not to leave. I told them that as much as I loved them, staying with their dad in this home was not an option, but I would still love to have a relationship with them if they wanted one. But I am still very much hurt by what happened and would still appreciate a little more time for myself. I let them know that their actions have consequences and they can't treat people the way they did. I moved out and stayed in a unit at one of my rental properties. I also have exciting news. I bought my first house. It was a fairly quick process. I'm excited for what's next. I bought my first house ever and next month I am taking a break from work for a few weeks or the whole month, maybe 2 or 3, and doing some exploring of the world and healing and finding myself. I lost myself to the twins and my husband and didn't really focus on what I wanted and what made me happy. So I bought tickets again for Disney World. I have also made plans to go to Thailand next month and from there I have no clue. I'm making some spontaneous trips. I've always wanted to see the 7 wonders of the world. Anyway, I am really happy to be getting a break. I told the kids I would love to have them over for dinner when I get settled into my new place. I do feel bad about canceling their trip to Disney, so I am thinking about funding a trip for them to go this summer for their 17th birthday, just not with me. I'm excited to be traveling alone and I need the mental break. That is all really. Opie's edit. I read the comments about not funding a birthday trip for them because it is not my responsibility. That is a mom's or step-parent's responsibility. And you know, all of you are right, so I will not be funding the trip. There definitely needs to be a stronger foundation before I even think about putting down thousands of dollars for them. It's still hard for me not to be or jump into that role, and I have to get out of it. But ultimately, they did not respect me as their mom, so I will not be doing that and focusing on myself and my trips. It was just a thought and nothing was set in stone, and I'm glad I didn't. Thank you to everyone who is here and still gives me advice and kind words. Once they earn my trust back, I will have no problem funding it. OP's edit 2. There seems to be some confusion. I talked to them 3 days ago. I didn't buy a house 3 days ago. I have a property with units, duplexes, that I rent out to people, and I was staying on one side. I bought a house for me to live in. I have everything I need to be sorted out to where I can buy this house now, and the divorce is not an issue. You can close on a house in less than 30 to 45 days if you pay in cash, which I did. People are so focused on my financial situation. I am not rich in any sense, but I do good for myself and I deserve it because I worked hard for it after I came from nothing. Finally, I made this decision in spite of Reddit. Reddit had nothing to do with me going through with my divorce, and I am not abandoning them again. The twins have said that they will try to earn my trust back, and if giving me space is what can start that healing process, they'll do it. I'm inviting them over for dinner next month and we'll see how this goes. Well, OP, I think it's a positive update. I mean, there's definitely no way back with your husband based on what he said that he still loved his eggs and anything. And still, you already had made your decision. They didn't respect you. He didn't back you up. That's not right. And it's a good thing that the kids understood they couldn't treat you that way. And regardless of whether you're their stepmom or not, they still want to have a relationship with you and you're open to that. So on that note, here's wishing you the best in the future, OP. Hopefully you have a lot of fun on your trips and you get to find what you're looking for. Take care, OP, and thank you for sharing. And now, let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Augustus B. McPhee. Need me to stay back and cover a shift? This will cost you big time. This comes from about 15 plus years ago when I was, and still am, working with people with disabilities in a community home. It's a great job for those who like it, a terrible one for those who don't, meaning every staff you meet are either very new or long-term like me. As a consequence, the turnover rate of staff is high, and replacement staff are slow to be hired, meaning you often find shifts not covered straight away. This is an industry where simply not having a shift filled isn't an option, particularly where I work, in a house with a single day staff and a single night staff, each working 12 shifts on a 7-day spread over 2 weeks roster. There are some strict rules regarding hours you can work. They are intended to avoid burnout, but more used to keep a reign of overtime, which in our industry paid plus 70% your hourly rate for the first 3 hours above your 76-hour fortnightly maximum, and 100% for any time after that. You can't demand overtime, but if they require you to work longer, they can't not pay you overtime. Also worth noting is that the people we work with are vulnerable, meaning they cannot be left unsupervised. Long story short, you can't go home until your replacement arrives. So, back in the early 2000s, we were having problems locating staff, lots of people working overtime, and a lot of fresh faces appearing and disappearing. The house I worked in wasn't difficult in particular, for adults with intellectual disability, but there was no support, by which I mean the worker there had to fend for themselves. There was no supervisor in the next building. They were miles and miles away. I'd frequently, at this time, had to stay back half an hour, waiting for staff to come replace me. I was less than happy with the way it was handled each time. I called the office to tell them the night staff haven't arrived. Do you know who is booked? To which I'd get the reply, we're still looking. How late can you stay? The obvious answer was, until I'm replaced, but what I often said was, I prefer not to stay after the end of my shift, but that doesn't seem to matter now, so I'll stay here until someone comes. Each time a new face arrived, I'd give them all the information they'd need for the shift, introduce them, walk them through their duties, etc. This would take 20 to 30 minutes. The point being is, I don't just jump ship when a staff arrives to replace me. This is someone's home and I like them, so I'm not going to leave them in the hands of someone uninformed. Cut to that weekend. My roster had me working 12-hour days Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Come Friday night, my replacement didn't arrive. I waited. I sent a text message to the supervisor after 15 minutes, then called after 30, left a message, and when they eventually called back, I could tell they had not found a replacement. I told them I'd stay until they did. This was by that time an hour after I was meant to finish, 10 p.m. Come 11, they call and say they simply can't find a replacement. They offer a deal and say if I stay and do the night shift, I can take the next shift off. It's pretty even, so you won't miss out, they said. Then they changed their tone and said, it's not really a request, we have no other option. Treat this as a direction. I reminded them it was a passive house, meaning you got half the hourly rate from midnight, but you could sleep in the bed provided, so I'd actually be taking a pay cut. They didn't know what else they could do, so I made a suggestion. I'd say and do the night shift, but I wasn't going to give up my next shift. I was going to do that one as well. They agreed. It meant they didn't need to find a replacement for me in the morning, so they thought it was a good deal for them. It was, however, an even better deal for me. It took a few emails over the weekend with the union to sort out the particulars, but what happened was this. Once I couldn't leave my work site because of a lack of replacement, I was on overtime. As this overtime was because of a direction, not voluntary, it remained in place until I went home. Because I didn't agree to drop my following day's shift, my overtime continued till I ended on Saturday night. The upshot being that working 36 hours in a row resulted in the equivalent of 60 hours pay. I was the first person to, as they say, pull this stunt, and word got around that if you didn't get replaced, you were actually the person who was in a position of power. It didn't take long until the department put a little more effort into training and employing extra staff, so something like this never happened again. Not at least to me. Well, OP, you came out on top of that one, although you must have been pretty tired. Still, it sucks that this is the kind of pressure that moved them to actually doing what they needed to do in the first place, which is have more staff. Well done for you, OP. Take care and thank you for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.